from hey everybody. I hope you're watching this. Maybe you're seeing it on recording somewhere. If you're watching this, you're probably on YouTube. My name is Sean. This is the Suicide Noted podcast, and now still somewhat recently started live stream. The reason I started the live stream, I wanted to invite now the 200 and something guests to join me to talk so they can continue sharing their thoughts and ideas, whether it's personal or otherwise, on suicide. Because let's face it, we don't really talk about this stuff. And when we do, as I say in the introduction, we're not very good at it because we're not. We actually suck at it. So this is a cool thing for me to be around people who are open to talking about it. So honestly, it's nice. So I hope you enjoy it. And we've been talking about different topics, raising questions. And today, originally I thought about calling this just like words, but that was a bit broad. So another thought is maybe language policing, but that felt maybe a little extreme. But the point is we're going to talk about a few words associated with suicide stuff and how we feel about them. That's it. So I'm joined today, this evening, by Carrie in British Columbia. I would say your episode number, but I don't have it on hand. Great conversation. Henri in Michigan, don't have that information either, but a great conversation. And Brittany in Kentucky. All of these were great. Most of my conversations, I think, are pretty cool. And that's that. So if you're watching, there should be a way for you to ask a question as well. Some sort of chat function that I should be able to see here. So if you have a question or a comment and you send it and we're still live, then of course we'll answer it. I want to ask you all. There was two words that came to mind when I was thinking about discussing this thing. I want to start off first by talking about something I've been seeing more on TikTok. And I only know this because in the recent few months, I've gotten on TikTok. A few of my videos / audiograms have been banned. Interesting, most of them have not been. And the reason it's interesting is because I was under the impression that with TikTok, and it may apply to other places as well, they don't like the word suicide. And they prefer the word unalive. And there's something about that word, and I understand words change, and I understand we use words differently as we learn more about people and groups and all this stuff. There's something about that that feels off for me. And I know that's a leading comment or a leading question, but I want to ask, and Carrie, can we start with you and then sort of go around the room if everyone wants to address that? What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, it feels like just another like extension of the sort of manipulation of working around this discussion publicly, right? Like it's just another like I feel like suicide has been such a triggering issue for hundreds of years. We didn't have the language for it, and now that's extending into the social media realm where people make up words like unaliving so that their social media platforms don't get flagged or banned or
Right.
suppressed.
And I don't know if it extends. So is it just replace that word with this word and we're good to go? Or is it if you use that word, but yet you still say certain things, we're not okay with it? And you used a word as we were talking before we went live about shadow banning, which I didn't even know what that meant. But it's just another way of essentially your content won't be seen.
Yeah. Yeah. But so your content won't be seen, your posts sometimes people will have, 10, 15, 20,000 views on a video. And then maybe they talk about a subject like this and use a word that isn't liked by the platform. And then all of a sudden their views go down to 100 or
Wow.
whatever. And then they know they've been shadow banned and their content isn't on on TikTok, it's called the For You page. I don't know if there's a term for it on the meta platforms, but it's a similar type of mechanism. If you say things that they don't like, then your stuff gets suppressed.
It's interesting. I may have shared, and then I want to hear from Brittany and Henri if you'd like to share, of course, that with the help of ambient, who's been great in social media, among other things, and helping out. The word suicide comes up all the time. It's just someone's. It's little clips of various parts of a podcast episode, and the word suicide comes up all the time. Yet 3 times, if I'm not mistaken, it's been taken down. And it's interesting. I'm wondering, like, are people deciding this and they just miss all of those and they happen to catch 3, or is the algorithm weird and it just, because you would think if the word suicide is not okay, 80-90% of those would have been banned.
I think it on YT, I know besides shadow banning, they'll yank your monetization if you're using words that they don't like. Words like
Yeah.
suicide, words like kill, um, murder. That's another area of TikTok in particular, I think, is where it really started.
Yeah.
Certain big true crime things go on, they'll greatly cheapen the loss of life, I feel like, by saying, like, this person unalived
Right.
their friend, or unalived their victim. This person unalived 4 women in Seattle in 1980 something. Like, those are that's a real
Yeah. Right.
cheap way to go about saying that. It kind of feels like sugarcoating. Like,
Yeah. And like, so there's words I've learned in the last 10 years, let's say. And I don't know how words come about, but some of them come about and they stick. And those words are associated with groups that have been marginalized and misunderstood, which we can apply to suicide attempt survivors, but it's different because those words, by and large, and you might not agree with this, but are like, we want to take ownership of this and we want to have a more accurate reflection of what the truth is. That's just my take. It's a simplistic take. It's a bit oversimplistic.
no, I think that's a good way to put
This
it.
feels very, very different because if you ask suicide attempt survivors, and I'm only asking 3 here of so many out there, but that's all I've got. And I bet if I asked most of my guests, or all of them, most of them would say that word feels weird. It's not a better representation of what we've gone through. It's like what you said, Brittany. It's actually kind of, for what, I don't know the word you use, but like kind of discounting it or minimizing it
It
or
cheapens it.
cheapens it.
It's,
So they feel like they're 2 different things. These words,
well, I think too, you consider the age and the demographic of people that you've spoken to. If you speak to
right?
exclusively younger people for a while, they have what's called TikTok brain. It's kind of like math mouth.
Right.
It rots you, right? And this
Right.
younger generation, and it's social conditioning. It's going to happen, unfortunately, I feel like, because I agree with you about unalive. It's so silly. And
Unreal.
when you apply it, like I said, and these true crime TikTokers apply it to homicide rather than suicide, I feel like that really is kind of disrespectful, kind of takes a little bit of the oomph out of the gravity
Of murder.
of the act, yeah. And
Right.
it does the same thing. It takes a lot of the impact off of the gravity of suicide. Like,
Yeah.
it takes all the punch out of it. It makes it so much harder to take seriously. And we're just gonna be raising up a next generation and a generation after that who doesn't have an appreciation for, like, the value of human life, I fear.
Right.
And
That's the
cheapen
real irony
the
of it. It's like,
terms that
yeah,
apply to taking away life.
yeah,
I
oh, sorry,
I
go
think
ahead.
the evolution of human language is fascinating.
Yeah.
And so although I do believe that there is really strong value in the accurate, appropriate, and correct usage of words, we have a ton of words that we've made up as human beings, and they mean things and they
Like
matter.
the
But
word suicide.
yeah, like the word suicide, but
Like that's
I'm
been an
also fascinated by how language evolves and changes, and
definitely.
broad stroke censorship like this, which is what it is, people finding a way to get around such broad censorship and still talk about these issues. It fascinates me. I think it's so
Right.
interesting.
Right. So my gut was, I'll never say that word. But what if by doing that, fewer people hear the message? So it's a tricky spot. Like, do I have to play the game? Because I think I was speaking with Carrie before we went live, like, and Henri, and you might have been here too. I can respect TikTok's a company. They're making money. They choose what they want to do.
Their investors leverage a lot of, ooh, we don't like that, I'm sure.
Yeah, but like you
I
can
don't know
argue
that for sure, though. Of course, that's just speculation.
100%. But if I own a company, social media is a really unique animal because it's sort of like in a few different buckets of like, it's not journalism, but it's an entertainment. Like, where does it fit? It's new. And if I created a social media company and I had strong views about something, and I decided like some words wouldn't work for me, I don't think I would be that open to hearing that. Like, it's my platform. I busted my ass to make this thing. And I was saying earlier, like for Suicide Note, I have certain things that I've decided that are most aligned with what I'm doing, and other things aren't. And if someone pushes back, it's cool. But at the end of the day, it's my podcast, right? And you can make the same argument, like, don't they get to decide what they want to do and how they want to do it?
I remember a few years back hearing the argument posed about our our president blocking people on Twitter and whether or not that was constitutionally okay. Because, like you said,
Right.
social media, it's social media. Like we're adults, we're professionals, we're politicians. Facebook and Twitter really should never come up in conversation, but because we live in this really regrettable, wacky timeline that we're in, it does. Social media is. I was in Lexington for a while, years back, and on my little homeless journey, I remember trying to apply for a job, and I was like walking up to people, meeting restaurant people, trying to network, right? Like I'm an old, and I'm not. I'm only 31 now. So I was in my 20s then. And I'm like trying to network and find myself a little dishwashing job in one of these bars or restaurants. And everybody tells me, oh, well, just apply on Facebook.
Right.
And I didn't have Facebook. I was ashamed to exist. I didn't have social media. It took all I could just to say hi to you on the street. Like, oh, by the fourth or fifth time I heard Facebook, I was ready to respond telling them to fuck themselves. It's social media is crazy. And the language policing to keep your monetization, I think
Right.
that I'm really glad that I'm not hearing you rate that concern. And instead, it's, do we want to get the message to more people? Should we
Yeah.
censor ourselves for the sake of that? Like,
It's a
because don't
tricky
do it
spot,
for
though.
ad revenue.
Well, I don't make money, so that's not. That would be a good problem. I wish I had.
Yeah.
That's going to change soon, by the way, with the tour, which that's going to blow up. I'm manifesting that shit. Just so you know, everyone listening, there's going to be a tour starting soon. I'm going around the country, and we're going to be me and my past guests are helping me do this. And we're going to be having these kinds of conversations, or more like the podcast type of conversations, in real life, in person. So, and we're raising money for that. I digress. So, shameless self promotion, but you got to do it once in a while. The word unalive itself. One final thought, and then I welcome anything else you want to share about this. What's interesting is I'm not a wordsmith per se. I think I am, but I'm not. When you have a word that starts with not, it's weird. Like a new word that starts with not something, it just feels weird. So I understand they're like, well, we can't make up a totally new word because no one would know what it means. So we have to use something recognizable. And the only thing they can come up with, and I don't have an alternative, is something. And that alone feels weird. Maybe I'm just old. But like, can you think of examples of new words where it's just not something? And I can't really think of any. I think with homelessness, they did that.
Yeah, unhoused.
Unhoused. And I have the same sort of like, that's not my milieu, so to speak. But I wonder if you ask people who were unhoused or homeless how they feel about it. I'm guessing most of them would be like, homeless is the right word.
I was homeless for a while, and I think that was the correct word for it.
Yeah, I think if you asked, again, a younger person might feel differently.
Yes.
But I think that on day 2 of living street side, they might be like, that's insensitive, it's unhoused. But like by day 29,
Yeah.
they'll admit that they're homeless. They'll go.
Right. So it's part of it's like it's candy coating it.
Yeah,
It's softening it, but it's not softening for the person that's going through it.
no, it's
It's
making it soft for soft people to be able to intake. It's like
right.
pre-chewed food.
So we
For
have to
thought.
sort of like dumb it down or simplify it or soften it because people are uncomfortable or scared with these ideas. And it's like, fuck that. Like, that's ridiculous. Like, that's damaging. That's a real problem.
I think so. I also think that pre-chewed food for thought would be a really great title rather than just words.
Wait, what?
Pre-chewed food for thought.
Wait, how does that relate to what we're talking about?
Because we're talking about cheapening words and food for thought. I don't know.
I know.
I got it.
I want that to marinate a little bit because I'm slow. I like
Just
it.
let it marinate. Let it
like
stew on it.
Stew on it.
I
All
like
right.
it.
Version of
It's
homeless
good.
I was, not to go off on a side tangent, was I couch surfed.
Yeah.
So I was very fortunate that I did have a place where I could have what few belongings I had stored, and I was able to sleep on couches. And I think it's fascinating how that form of homelessness is somehow like recognized as not homeless.
Yeah, well, that's the thing too. When we're going back to those specific words, how unhoused versus homeless, I do reference from, if I talk about it, there was a period of time, I will call it unhoused homelessness, because like your support agencies and such,
Mhm.
your social services workers, they will ask, do you have a roof or are you unhoused? And that's
Right.
not to say that you're not homeless if you don't have a place to call your home where you can for sure return to and feel secure at. Because there's plenty of couch surfers, there's plenty of families doubling, tripling up. There's people who go, stay with their mom this week, but they know they can't live there, so they'll go stay with an aunt for a while. And yeah, it's couch surfing. But unhoused homelessness denotes
On the
living in your
street.
car. They might call urban camping if you're lucky enough to have a car. If you don't have a
I
car,
didn't have a car.
you're unhoused. You're street side,
The street side.
or woods people, as it were,
Right.
in a
Yeah.
rural area.
And even if you are the couch surfing type of homeless, you're at the mercy of the owner of the couch as to whether or not you can be there. You're there as their guest and in their good graces, and hopefully they're a decent person and they're not going to attempt to take advantage of you. That's a real problem.
It's a real problem, and that's for that very reason it's sometimes preferred to be unhoused versus the option that you have to be homeless surfing. But that's a whole other conversation.
Well,
It
so
is.
do you,
Side
so
tangent.
one final thought, and then you can add more if you'd like for us, as always. Like, so should I change the name of this podcast to Unalive Noted?
No.
Would that get more listeners or get more Unalive Noted? It doesn't have. I'm just used to Suicide Noted. It has like a little bit of a cachet, a ring to it.
Have you thought about a semicolon?
Yeah, no, I know about the semicolon.
Just semicolon noted.
We could do that. Yes, I'm gonna probably not.
I'm
I
saying.
really like the name, but I don't. Yeah, we'll see where it goes. I'm very unlikely to change anything because I think what I do is really good. And so why would I change it? But
For
it's
TikTok.
interesting when you're like, I digress a little bit here, but about a year ago, I don't remember exactly how long ago, in an effort to dedicate much more time to this, I thought if I'm going to do that, I need to monetize it somehow. And I've tried a few things, and one of them had some effect, is like a membership. I'm trying some other things. And once you start to do that, you really face typically, and I know I have been with, what are you willing to compromise? Right? So I'll give you a quick example and then we can move on to another word if you'd like. I'd like to. In the sort of, we will pay you to speak at our college or wherever else, business or industry. 95% of any conversation around suicide is prevention.
Yeah.
So I do myself a disservice instead of making money, not using that word somewhere. But for reasons that will be a conversation for another live, I hope. I choose not to. I'm not inherently against the idea. I think what I do and they do can coexist and even complement one another. But there's a reason. But people who are hiring people, like, they're not interested in like a long reason. They're just like, if you're not down with this, we have other options. So it's like, how much do you stick to your guns? How much do you stick to, like, all right, this is what it needs to be versus, I need some money.
Mhm.
And that's a tricky one.
I mean, I say all the way, I say don't sell out, but also, like, I'm broke, so I wouldn't take advice from me on monetization.
I wouldn't take advice from me either because we're in the same boat.
I was going to bring that up though, because I just quickly did a quick Google of the origins of the word unalive, and what came up was that in the early 2020s, young people on TikTok started saying unalive as a way around, um,
Oh,
of getting demonetized. So it just made me think about capitalism and like kind of what you're
yeah.
saying. And I feel like what you're doing is so unique because it's kind of like a resistance to the establishment or a resistance to capitalism, but that is a really
Or
tough place to
censorship.
be because if you're going to be pouring, your energy into it, you need to make a living. So I mean, I don't know, I don't have any
Yeah.
answers, but I do love the idea of kind of resisting establishment and staying on track. And what I feel like Suicide Noted is about is suicide awareness. And I have never seen on my journey, and I'm almost 60, so I've been in, around this my whole life. Um, I've never seen another opportunity for people that live with suicidal ideation or are post attempt or, those kinds of things. I've never seen another platform that provided the opportunity to talk openly. There's so much airtime for family members who've survived, for
Yeah.
healthcare workers, for um, uh, like you say, suicide prevention, the sort of like um, socially acceptable mental health discussions, like that. All those things get tons of airtime, but the
Yeah.
actual people that are surviving, living with this, there's nowhere for us to use just
I've
real language.
I've only found 3 places. And I only know this because, like, their online presence. And I want to say them out loud because I appreciate the work you're doing. I don't know any of you. One is called Soft White Underbelly. You might be familiar with them. And
Yep.
he does a really good job. It is a he of,
He's problematic in other ways.
well, yes, 100%. But what's interesting about it is he has probably over 1,000 videos at this point, maybe much more. There are 4 or 5 that are dedicated to suicide attempt survivors. So that's telling. I think he started with addicts and homeless or unhoused. So, okay. And 2 of my former guests have been on his thing.
Really?
One had a good experience, one didn't. There's another, and I just found this by looking, because if you are looking on Google and YouTube and nothing comes up, then it doesn't matter if it exists. We can't find it. And I did an exhaustive search. And so the other one is called My Suicide Story. Again, I have no connection to this guy. It is a young man. He's more of a filmmaker. I don't know why he chose to speak with suicide attempt survivors. So he's got a little bit of a thing going on YouTube, and I commend him for it. I don't know the quality of his work. The videos seem fine. It's different. It's different because what I do is more really conversation, and that the way they've done theirs is a little bit different. It's mostly the person just talking, and I don't know what happens behind the scenes, and I don't know how they cut it and edit it, but there's value there, and they're dedicating, particularly the one I just mentioned, they're dedicating it to just this group of people, which is very hard to find. The final one, which is the most well-known one, is Live Through This. And that woman is doing, she's very involved with suicide, and she's a photographer. And so her thing was she would go and do photo shoots with them and then have extended conversations. And it wasn't a podcast. It was more of like a blog type thing. So if you go on her website, you'll see what I assume is not the entire conversation, but I don't know. It's more of a written format. So, but these are people doing things dedicated to this group of people identifying as suicide attempt survivors. And when I say identifying as suicide attempt survivors, they're suicide attempt survivors. That's why they identify that way. So there are people out there, but given the number of people who are struggling, the number of people who try, the number of people who complete, it's an astoundingly low number of people who are dedicating any time to this.
Mm-hmm.
Of course, I have my own, like, oh, I think I'm doing it better, ego bullshit going on. But I give them credit, you know. But there's so few spaces. Like it's astounding, actually. There's way more space to talk about cats. Way more. Like,
it's difficult to talk about, and it's difficult to encourage people to talk about. Tell me about the time you tried to.
but why? But Brittany, why? But why is it difficult?
I'll tell you part of the reason why. It's damn near criminalized.
Right.
To admit that you have had such a terrible struggle with your mental health is to put yourself in a very vulnerable position, especially if you are in a position already to be like proving yourself somewhat. Like you know a little bit about my history and my um right in the thick of it again with the family court and my state. That's a whole other conversation still. But yeah, if I talk about how bad off I have been, then that makes it a whole lot harder to prove, or that reopens this conversation about like, well, prove how better you are. And how do I do that? Like, other than
Right.
continue to be alive, how do I do
100%.
that? If I start talking about the before time, then like it seems like, oh, you did that. Like, well, then there's always going to be a risk of you doing that again.
Right. Like we'll accept. This is my take on this, and I don't know if I'm right because I'm sure I'm blinded in some ways. But if you have attempted, and you are now okay, you know you've gone through the struggle, and you're good now, right? You're in recovery. You've got a lot of resilience. More and more, I think we're open to hearing that. I don't know if that's the case for all of you.
Yeah.
As a culture, I think we're slightly more okay with hearing that, right? And I feel like also weirdly on the opposite side, if you're like in crisis, and this is where suicide prevention stuff comes in, and you're going to talk about it, okay, but because you're trying to get help, you're going to call 988, or you're going to do this or that. But there are so many people. This is the biggest like thing that I'm moving more towards this, whether it's passive suicidal ideation or active. Everybody else, and that number is massive. It's much larger than either of those other categories by a lot. Those people who think about it once in a while or all the time, we do not make space for them. We do not. Like unequivocally, I don't know what happens behind closed doors in almost every place in the world. So I can't say that definitively. I'm sure some people are doing amazing work and have amazing conversations. I'm going by my experience with my guests and what I see online, and it's limited. It is limited. I don't see much in the way of letting people talk about this stuff. Not really, unless there's always, as long as you're doing X, Y, and Z, I'll listen for a little while. Well, what if I'm not in that space? What if I'm still thinking about it? Not so quick, buddy. And you want to, and I'll tell you right now, that's killing people.
Yeah.
So, period.
The consequence of admitting,
Exactly.
yes, it's
So then people are in a position where they have to make a choice. Which it sounds like, Brittany, you've been in this space. I'm sure a lot of people have been in this space. Like, am I open about it? Because I think we have a human need to sort of be open and I think for most people, we learn that we can't talk about it, but it doesn't mean we don't want to talk about it. I think for most human beings, you have a need to express it and get it out. But you learn real fucking quick. Nope, not going to do that because of the bullshit. There's all sorts of shitty consequences. Oh, man. Anyway, I'm not into the name of the
your
podcast.
internal, like when you're isolated with suicidal, like you say, passive suicidal ideation, when you're isolated with that, your internal dialogue can be so confusing and overwhelming that not being able to talk about it safely on the outside leads to just so much shame and isolation that I think you're right. I think not being able to talk about it is making it so much worse. And I mean, why is this such a taboo issue that it's not being looked at as, say, almost like a form of OCD or you know, many could be many things, right? That somebody has this overdeveloped sort of groove in the record of thoughts or neural pathway that we think this way over and over and over. And yet when you go to talk to anybody about it, it's actually pretty dangerous for the person who's suffering. So then
Definitely.
it just deepens the neural pathway of the thinking, because then you're left on your own with it.
Definitely. Wow, it's so.
You know, this is I've got a strange anecdotal it's a little tidbit that I can input, and then I might have to jump off of here soon to tend to my screaming son.
No worries.
It doesn't sound like it's going well with dad.
No worries.
But I can remember strangely, it was the first time that I was introduced to the concept of suicide, of what it is. And it was from a book. It was from a children's book, actually. I spent a whole lot of time in the library my whole entire life. It was one of my first jobs, was actually a library circulation desk clerk in my little small town. But years before that, I was a younger child, even than I was when I had my first little library job as a teen. And there was this book in the children's section, and we were checking out the library after a big renovation, and I was all excited to be there. And I start reading from this book, and I'm reading out loud, and there's a part in the book where it's the book, I think, was about like little kids' different family dynamics. You know, it's one of those. It's trying to familiarize you with, like, not everybody's house has a mommy and a daddy and a brother
Right.
sister. But it says, like, something along to the effect of, you know, this is little Timmy, and last year, and little Timmy lives alone with his mom. And last year, little Timmy's dad took his life, and sometimes he's sad, and sometimes he
Mm,
visits his dad. And my grandmother, or maybe it was my mom, I don't know, they took that book and they were like, I can't even believe this is in the library. Like, why would they teach? What's the target age? Why would they teach little kids that? What if a little kid learns about that? And I said, well, I don't get why you're upset. Like, what does that even mean? He took his life. Like, he got sick? And they're like, no, it means he killed himself. Like, you can do that? And that was when I learned about that. And that's exactly why these caretakers, these women who raised me, were real upset with me having read that book at the big age of 7 or 8. Because they're like, that introduced that concept. It didn't say suicide,
right.
but and I didn't know that the word for it was suicide until um I was a little older. But it was actually, I had like a pediatric attempt not long after that. I don't blame the book, but the reaction, I think, had a bigger impact on me than the book probably did.
Right.
The
Wow.
taboo of it,
Right.
the what if a little kid heard that and thought they could? And I'm like, I'm a little kid. What if they did? Maybe I will.
I think we're
Uh,
kind of looped back here to the importance of words and their meanings
Mm-hmm.
and the value that they hold. And having access to accurate language to discuss things is important.
Yeah.
I don't think I had any awareness of the word suicide until after I really seriously injured myself when I was 12 in an attempt to die.
Mm.
That is my first, like,
yes.
recalled awareness of the word suicide. And I don't recall up until that point knowing that there was a word for what I was going through.
Yes, a doctor was absolutely the first one for me to hear or read the word suicide. I
Wow.
didn't, and it
But
was only when I was getting treatment.
but it's so interesting that it was more the reaction.
Yes.
I have a belief that I cannot substantiate. because suicide, the reasons people end their lives is quite complicated. But I think the biggest reason, so we could say, well, why do people do that? And you go, well, they're mentally ill, that big broad brush. Okay. Certain kinds of circumstances, or this, or addiction, or that, all valid, all intertwining with what I'm about to say. I think truly the biggest reason people do it is because the people in their lives won't listen to them in a way that makes them feel not shitty, to really put it simply. Now, I can't prove that, and I don't need to, because even if it's not the number one, it's just clearly big. But I don't see a lot of conversation about that. What I see out there is like, just talk about it. What I don't hear is like, what happens when you talk about it and it backfires, which it happens all the time. Anyway, we digress a little bit, but it's like, yeah.
Nobody's saying just listen about it to the mentally healthy people.
And then the idea, I was having a conversation, I'm doing an update episode today with a woman in Poland. And, we were talking about the idea that even if you ask someone, just listen about it, they don't know what that means. Like, people actually don't know. They don't know what listening looks like, the kind of listening that would be helpful or useful. And I can't blame them necessarily because they don't learn it. We don't learn this shit.
And society at large is just so triggered by this subject. Like, it's so deeply ingrained in people to be so triggered by it that the huge number of people that are suffering with the thoughts or have the need to talk about it, like, that's a horrible feeling if you're the type of person who's like trapped in a loop sort of thing, and you need to talk about it, but
oh my God,
you have to be so careful who you say anything to, because you don't want to upset them, you don't want to trigger the chain reaction, you don't, like, there's so many consequences because it's such a triggering topic. What if it just wasn't such a triggering topic?
Right, and
like,
let's be clear, it's not just about triggering someone. I mean, that trigger can also lead to you being in handcuffs. That's the truth.
That's what I mean. Yeah, the chain reaction. Yeah.
So, isn't it ironic though that, well, I don't know if it's ironic. That's not the right word. I wish people had a better understanding, and they're not going to be watching this or listening to my podcast. It's like, what's the use of even talking about it? They don't give a shit about this. They have other things they're concerned about. Okay, I get it. Your life is busy. Probably nothing I or anyone here says will make a difference, but that is killing people. I mean, at a minimum, the tagline is less shitty, less alone. And at a minimum, it's doing that, which sucks. But I think it's fair to say that is causing a lot of people to end their lives. I wouldn't say causing, but it's certainly correlative and one cause. And like I said, it's complicated because they're probably going through all kinds of things that are leading to that. But
like a contributing factor.
For sure. And a big one. A really, really, really big one.
It's definitely frustrating to like reach out to someone with how you're feeling and then have them just counter back with, oh, but you have all these nice things or these friends or we have, this thing, that thing. And, you've got so many blessings. How can you be anything but happy? And like, oh, my bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, I'll just go correct that myself, I guess.
Why didn't I
I've had that kind of interaction, and I know I'm being like really vague and glossing, but I'm sure everyone's had a version of that conversation at some point if they've ever been suicidal.
Or even in any kind of, I mean, yes, I agree with you. But even people who haven't been suicidal, let's say they're dealing with depression or addiction or whatever, like they've probably dealt with it too.
Yeah.
And then you do that enough with somebody who's in pain, guess what happens to some of them? They're on the path to ideating and other things. And it is related. 100%.
Yeah.
I can say that. I can't prove it, unfortunately, but I know it to be true.
Well, just to draw again from my anecdotal personal shit, along the same lines. That's a lot of people do. Parents, we do each other that way, especially parents of babies and toddlers. It's anybody is afraid to say like, "Oh, I'm so overwhelmed. Like I need a minute a day. I need a week away." It's like, "Oh, how can you even? Because your children are so lovely and wonderful." And I just couldn't imagine. Like, no, you couldn't. That's because you're not on month 15 without a coffee break, let alone a day off. Like, of course, my child is beautiful.
Right, right, right,
um,
right.
but it's that same sort of pissing contest that comes up when you try to open up to somebody and they say, "Oh, but look at all your blessings, and you've got so many friends, and your family loves you," and like you don't know. You're not in anybody's front lines like they are.
Yeah.
And to feel suicidal isn't to cheapen or devalue all of the wonderful things about your life. It's not always a thing you can help. Somebody, I believe Carrie earlier said that it should be treated more like a form of OCD. It absolutely can be symptomatic of that. Some people that struggle with OCD, that's part of their just their compulsive behaviors or their obsessive thoughts are just about hurting themselves. And because that can wind you up in handcuffs, and because it makes people uncomfortable, you'll fear, you'll know, like you'll be afraid of those consequences of being locked away, or afraid of being left out and just feeling alone when you know that if you open up, you're going to make the people around you uncomfortable. That's a really
Right.
lonely, isolating feeling. You can be surrounded by people and feel lonely that way.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Well, there's one big difference though. Like, so if we're comparing OCD, if we're comparing it to like a condition of, let's say, suicidal, you're a passive suicidal ideator. I don't know what's in the DSMV, but yeah, I can see that comparison. But suicide is unique,
Yes.
and it's little because it's an action. It's not a
Yes.
condition; it's an action. And I think
The
people are,
thoughts, though.
yeah, no, I get it. But when you, I feel like when you act on it, that's not only when certainly the thoughts will push a lot of people away and do what I call the things you brought up are all examples of what I call conversation killers.
Oh.
And that's exactly what they are. I've actually got a list of them. It's not that long. It's not that long. I got to do about 10 and it seems to cover most of them.
That sounds about right. That I would
Yeah,
open my
like
mouth.
it's not like a thousand things. It's like fixing and comparing and blah, 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 blah.
And then you've got the conversation killers, and then the internet says we have to censor this word. So
No, the conversation unalivers.
yeah,
Just to be clear, so we're
so
playing
it's
the
a
game right.
frustrating mess.
But I'm not pushing. I agree with every, for better or worse, I agree with you all. But something about the action of doing something because of your condition that I think adds more to people's discomfort. Yeah. I know you got to go, Brittany, because you're taking care of a child, right?
Oh no! It sounds like he actually finally fell asleep. But his
Oh.
dad.
All right. Well, then let's.
Congratulations.
There's one other word I want to focus on, and then of course you have other ideas. I'd love to hear them. The other one, and this is a little bit different, is the word commit. And so my take on it is a lot of people will say, and when I say these, it could be media, it could be people that represent organizations, just people. When you say the word commit suicide, the word commit is associated with a crime. And so we should change it, or not change it. Like we don't have a new word like unalive, but it would be better. What you should say is complete suicide or some version of like ended their life. So it's the commit word that people are having a problem with. And I think the main reason is because of the connection with crime. And this is more open for me. I think with unalive, I have pretty clear opinions about it. But it just made me think, and I wanted to bring it up to you all. Like, what do you, how do you feel about that? And I see both sides of this pretty clearly. And I'm wondering what your thoughts are on people just essentially saying, don't use that word.
I kind of see the two sides of it too. I think the reason we use it is just because it's been used for such a long time. It's like just sort of part of it's just part of the way we talk, like we put those two words together just because humans have for hundreds of years. Because it was a criminal
Right.
offense, right? For a very long time. In some places it still is.
Right.
So I think we just keep saying it because that's how it was always expressed.
Right.
And so, but to change languages, it can be hard, right? Like to not say something that's just like sort of in your natural flow of speech can be really hard. And I sort of feel like, I mean, why bother? Everybody knows what you mean anyway, to
Exactly.
mince words. But at the same time, it would be really nice to see change around this and to see it as less of a, because I think somebody mentioned this on one of our other lives. It might have been Henri, actually. I can't remember now. Or Michelle said something about the myth around if you have had a suicide attempt or you have suicidal ideation or you're sort of, people know that about you, that you kind of get treated as though you're a bad person, that you're a scary, that you're a criminal, that you're evil in some way, or you're a scary bad person. And
Or
so
dangerous.
words like, yeah, dangerous, sorry, thanks, that's a better word. And so saying things like commit suicide are in that same category, right? Of that you're a criminal, that you're dangerous in some way, that you're homicidal.
You know what I think also I think some suicide attempt survivors, well, one, they don't want to be told how to speak. But also, it's not a crime, but it feels like a crime. You're treated like a criminal. So I think a lot of suicide attempt survivors lean into that word because that's how it feels for them. It may not be a crime, so it's unfair to compare it to an actual felony, but it feels that way in their life. And I think it's a fair thing to, I think it's more of like, fuck you, don't tell me how to speak. And if you were in my shoes, you might understand that, like, in some ways I'm being treated like a criminal, whether it's technically on the books a crime or not. I don't know. I haven't asked the question a bunch, so it's, it's not like I've had hundreds of conversations about this, but I feel like that might be part of it too for people. Like, and at the same time, I get like, though, media has these rules about how they should talk about suicide when they cover suicide or talk about suicide, and that makes sense. Like, there's sort of an accepted thing.
Responsible reporting.
Yeah, because
ethical reporting.
Because there have been 1 second. Bad for lives. There's been some research done that, let's assume it's accurate, that like certain ways of reporting might lead to copycat, might lead to people. And so whether that's accurate or not, at least on paper, I get the sentiment behind it. And I agree with you, Carrie, that like, yeah, changing words is tricky, and it has to start somewhere. So for TikTok, it was young people choosing to play the game, and that's how that word got started. It may not have been from TikTok themselves. I don't know. And this is like, I don't know where this is coming from. And I think most people presumably are well-intentioned. I just wonder, I don't know how to think about it.
I have actually seen, I am a member of this private Facebook group. I like to refer to it lovingly out loud as my morbid things group, but it's where I go for morbid things that normally Facebook doesn't let you see. So they're all like censored and nested, and it's a lot of gross stuff. I don't know why I look at it. It's probably another. But anywho, they
Like
use
pencil copying or worse.
no, I don't do that. Ugh, I won't with that. No, where like
Yeah.
more morbid things.
Okay.
But you don't want to tell us like one example of what you're talking about?
Okay, yeah, sure. Remember Kobe, God rest his soul, Kobe Bryant, the helicopter crash or
Oh
whatever.
yeah.
So his autopsy report was shared in the group. Um, there's a lot of like crime scene cleaners by trade that will upload pictures. People come in there and they're just like, oh my gosh, I was walking down the street and this guy just jumped, and here's a picture of the
Oh,
scene
okay.
and
Yeah,
stuff
yeah.
like that.
Right.
So they will use a different, they don't use unalive because we're talking about unalive, or we were talking about unalive for it, like as if that were interchangeable with suicide, and that's not the case. Unalive is interchangeable with kill. And in order to interchange it with suicide, it would be unalive yourself, unalive
So yeah,
oneself, like
Right.
unalived
self-unaliving.
himself. Now, in my morbid things group, sometimes they'll use shorthand, but SC is pretty universally understood as being not a location tag like South Carolina or whatever, but it's self cancel. Um,
Oh.
um, So self-cancel with a pew pew and lots of brain matter in the bathtub might be a tag on a photo, just per example. Sorry if I'm triggering anyone. But
You're not.
but but so that's my morbid things group, and their language, their lexicon is a little bit different than that I see in other places. And they are not, this is not a group of folks who are tutti frutti and sugarcoaty about things
Right. Right.
whatsoever, but just for the sake of, even in this private nested realm within the metaverse, they still don't want the algorithm, the AI bots or
Right.
whatever, to flag their stuff and to get our group shut down, by
Right.
the powers that be over on Meta. So they'll use self cancel and pew pew and all that stupid little silly shit.
Well, let me ask you this, and I welcome. This is not a loaded question at all. When you talk about your own ideations and or attempts, do you use the so I assume everyone here uses the word suicide and
Yeah.
probably not unalive. But if I was talking to a bunch of 18-year-olds, maybe that would be different right now.
Yeah, you'd be more likely to hear unalive or self cancel,
Right.
self
Now,
delete.
all I have is the three of you, and you're ranging from 30s to 50s. Um, when you talk about suicide as it applies to yourself or others, do you use the word commit? And if you do you think twice about using it? And may that depend on your audience or your mood or the context, or you sort of like, this is just the word.
Well, I've got an interesting loaded answer, so if anybody else would like to go ahead.
Well, I keep it simple, and I will say suicide attempt or suicide death.
Okay.
There you go. Super simple.
Super simple.
Cut and dry.
Carrie, when you talk about it, and I could listen back to our episode and probably learn this information, but that was also sometime in the past.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I've tripped over committed a lot because it is one of those weird words. I have tripped over it a lot and when I'm talking to people, but I also sometimes just say suicided.
You make it a verb.
Yeah,
Oh, yeah.
and I
Okay.
have heard that quite a bit.
Another use. That's interesting. I like it when we can simplify things to one word
Hmm.
and as opposed to two
And
or three.
one of the things I like about suicided is that it just makes me feel a little bit more in control of my own situation. Like it
Hmm.
was my choice to do this verb, to do this
Right. Hmm.
kind of thing.
Yeah.
But I had an interesting discussion. My family's been like I've been really exiled from my family, slowly until the point where I almost don't have contact with them anymore because of this situation that I have had ideation my whole life and many attempts. Um, but I recently have kind of reconnected with my sister, and I was with her last weekend, which I hadn't been with her for a long, long time. So it was kind of like a new thing that we were together. And she told me that her friend's son had suicided recently, and she wanted to talk to me because she had kind of this new perspective or insight. Like my family had a lot of anger toward me about it. There was they just didn't, like it never would come up in conversation that these attempts had happened. Um, it was like this whole part of my identity, my life, and everything was just completely not a part of the family um, conversation, which for me was horrible because I just felt so rejected, like in total, because it's such a big thing for me. I don't know why I'm telling you guys all this, but just that my sister said her friend's son had suicide. It was like she was trying to say committed, but she couldn't quite get it out. So the word is definitely still active in my age group. I'm 59. Um, because, we're not like my sister's not on social media or anything, so she wouldn't even know about the new words. But it's hard for her to go there, and she, even when she was trying to be communicative about it, she still kind of mumbled it out.
Huh.
Telling. Brittany, what did you want to share about? You have a excuse me, a
Oh,
story or anything? Yeah.
I just whether commit or you ask specifically, I would. Oh, is Sean still there?
I'm
Oh,
here. I'm gonna blank off
okay.
for just a minute. I'm still listening. I promise.
No, you're fine. Your camera just went off, so I didn't know.
Yeah.
So whether how I would characterize myself, or my own attempt rather, I guess if I wanted to be flowery and real verbose like I do a lot of the time, I could say I attempted to commit suicide in 2019, or if I wanted to, I just try not to talk about it though, because as we've said, that gets you this stigma, this label, this, oh, they're dangerous. That's a dangerous character. Got to watch out for them. But not too when thinking on language, um, even language surrounding difficult topics because of geographically where I'm from. The people just have a way of spitting shit out.
Right.
In Kentucky, like in the farther south you go, I think the worse it gets and the more garbled the speech becomes, all at once, kind of.
No,
But
I think actually think like I don't know if you're in Appalachia, but Appalachia is unique in the way they
I
talk,
am, yeah.
and they're like it's not just the way they talk. It's not just like an accent. It's just kind of how they communicate.
Yeah, yes, absolutely. We've got it's a it's not just the accent. It's so much
Right.
more than just the accent.
Right.
But
Right.
yes, I am in the heart of Appalachia, the Appalachian
Mm.
Mountains. I'm right near the borders of West Virginia and Ohio in
You're
Kentucky.
like smack dab in the middle of
Yeah,
all of it.
it's super duper Northeast Kentucky. I've been here all my life. And it's not too bad, as far as life goes, but I digress. I know several folks. I again, as a youngster growing up, I came to know a little school friend of mine. Her father committed suicide, which is how we'd say it. But that's not how it was characterized to me ever. It was always just her daddy killed himself. It's like,
Uh-huh.
okay, wow, but that's how people talk here. Just, oh, he killed himself a few years back, and
Right.
even at the time, we were maybe second, third graders, and to hear my friend talk, she'd say, my dad killed himself.
Wow. Yeah. Yeah.
So no flowery makeup language a bit about it. I had a family member as well who was just an intolerable old cantankerous man who was like abusive. He was a piece of shit for all of his life that all of us knew him. He took himself out. He first like set fire to the family home. He did crazy
Oh.
things. He weaponized it. He kamikazed is what he did to his family. But when we describe that, I think we describe it no more or less lovingly or affectionately than we describe anyone who does that here. because obviously, like you said earlier, suicide, it's not a condition, it's a diagnosis, but by the time it's a diagnosis, it's a postmortem, right? So that's but anybody here, I've only ever heard people describe it very matter of factly. No, he killed himself some years back. With a woman, it might be less so, but I've never
Yeah.
personally, it's always been men in my personal experience that have completed, that I know of.
Yeah, I think the way we talk about it has a lot to do with where we're from. I think it has a lot to do with socioeconomic stuff.
But too, just when you complete, commit,
Right.
delete, cancel, it's those who survive you, those who you leave behind, who would speak of you, who would remember you, who would describe you, and it's how they feel about your act, whether you committed it upon them, whether it was some
Right.
slight to them, or some defect in you, or just some tragedy. It's all in the characterization of our minds, I think, how we describe those who were surviving, and
Yeah, that's interesting.
what they did and how they left.
Yeah, there's got to be reasons behind why people choose to talk about it the way they do and the choice of words, for sure. Sure. And I'm not proposing one way or the other. I just think it's interesting. You know, I've noticed myself catching myself. So that's just the whole point of that is this, I've been influenced,
Yes.
not for better or worse. And I will, I'd say both. I typically say, so I might ask somebody, how old were you when you tried to end your life? But I might also say, tried to commit. I might use the word complete. I think I'm all over the place. And I don't think it's a bad thing. But I brought it up just because I thought it was an interesting thing. I guess I'm just more like, when you're aware of something, then all of a sudden you see it more and hear about it more, like magically, because it's on your radar. It's like, oh, this word commit is getting a lot of traction. It's a sticky subject, a sticky topic. People are talking about it. I was like, all right, what do I think about this? Well, let me ask some other people I've talked to about this and get their take on it. So
I had never heard controversy around the term commit, before you brought it up.
yeah, I think controversy is probably a strong word. I just think that there's talk about it, and
Yeah.
sometimes it feels like, if we can call them language police, that might be a little unfair. They have pretty strong opinions about it. Hey, I
Yeah,
don't
because
know.
even when you don't necessarily like a word or the way it's used or whatever, as soon as you start censoring or judging or whatever, verbally judging people for the way they talk, it just creates so much friction, right? And I think everyone would agree that free speech is better than not.
Man, yeah, but we're not supposed to yell fire in a crowded auditorium, right?
Yeah, and we're not supposed to say things that would be considered hate speech too. So it
Right.
is
So, like, where do we draw the line? And
yeah,
yeah,
Free speech does not cover speech that constitutes a verbal crime.
yeah,
Um,
but that's not an exact recipe
yeah,
for
and it
everybody.
also depends on who the judge is judging what a verbal crime is, and how far one can go without committing one.
Like, do we get to the point where the people who for dole out justice with this have been so influenced, or perhaps themselves are so uncomfortable with talking about this that it just moves more and more in a direction? I don't know if it's a fair comparison, unalive and commit. I feel compelled to share that I think when you're focusing so much on one word like that, I think some of those people are missing the point.
exactly.
It's kind of the same idea. It's like, that's not the issue. And I'm sure many of them know that and they realize that. And it's just a small part of a lot of things they would want to talk about with respect to that. It's just worth calling out, like, yeah, I mean, You want to model talking about it in a certain way and use the word complete, cool. But please know, like, there's just bigger fish to fry with this shit. Let's not like dance around that. That ain't the panacea here. Trust me. And I'm not suggesting they think that, but
No, it just as, and I know we discussed outside of the group, it was in just a conversation that you and I were having about back on that word, which she said it wasn't a topic you're trying to get on tonight. So I'm not trying to delve into there and get caught in the weeds of this content, so to speak. But prevention, that's prevention, commit, unalive, kill, murder, suicide, all of these words have big, heavy connotations. They come with luggage, with baggage, and it's going to make people feel all different kinds of ways. I mean,
yeah.
just hearing people are going to get caught up on a word sometimes.
I want to share something with you. So I, Sean Wellington, have a Facebook profile. I also have a Facebook page, Suicide Noted. Okay. Because the word suicide is in the page, and perhaps because of more likely my browsing, I get these interesting things that are often around suicide. And like I said earlier, 90+% are prevention. I'm not picking on this company, but I want to share something with you that is not uncommon that I see, this kind of thing. And I think they get away with it. And I feel like it does overlap with words. So I feel like it's relevant, but nonetheless, either way, it's called a $15 suicide prevention hoodie.
Ooh. I knew it was going to be some stupid shit like that.
But like, you see enough of this, and I'm not saying us necessarily, right? But you see enough of this, it influences the way you think about something. And so you see this more than any other kind of meme or whatever. I'm misusing my words, or messages. This I'm reading this verbatim. This T-shirt is saving. This T-shirt is changing lives, and it's a T-shirt. It's called the Suicide Prevention T-shirt, and they have these clever things on the T-shirt.
Well, you can't tie it in a noose.
And on the back of the T-shirt, it says, "Dear person behind me, the world is a better place with you in it. Love the person in front of you." I'm not saying they're wrong. That they might feel that way, but I think about is that prevention?
That makes me think of that episode of It's Always Sunny in Philadelphia. I watch too much TV, where they're going to the airport for the Life is Happy shirts, and like the ferry crashes into the nuclear plant or whatever, and they're just standing there in their stupid shirts. Like, are we happy?
But then I watch at the comments, and as it is, because Facebook is Facebook, everybody loves the hoodie. I wore this thing. It was great. And I rarely comment. Sometimes I choose to comment as Sean Wellington. Sometimes I choose to comment as Suicide Noted. I only comment when I'm annoyed. And usually I don't, because I'm like, this is going to go nowhere. It's a waste. But the reason I commented is something I haven't shared with you yet. Because above the T-shirt, the one in which I read to you what was on the T-shirt, but below this T-shirt is changing lives is something else. And this is by far the problem. This is the problem. Because what I share with you isn't the main problem. Okay. I don't know who these people are. They said the following: just one positive message can reduce loneliness by 25%. And here's the thing that just blew me I just was like, I have to fucking say something. And reduce suicide rates by 46%. So if you wear this T-shirt that we're selling that's only $15, you can reduce suicide rates by almost half. No. Now, I don't have any claim here that can't possibly be true, but I'll say there's no fucking way that's remotely close to being true.
Show me your data.
And that's what I said, actually. That's what I said. I said, if you're going to put any sort of data, please put where you got the data from or some way we know, because I'll tell you right now, those numbers are absolutely absurd.
But if that were remotely anywhere nearly true, then the World Health Organization would be advertising their stupid T-shirts and their
But just think
stupid
about but
hoodies.
people will see that and see the message they're getting. Is all I got to do is wear a shirt.
I am morbidly curious about if those hoodies have a drawstring.
I'll give you the name. I have no problem calling them out, and maybe they're doing wonderful things. I think merch would be cool for Suicide Noted. I'm not against it. I certainly my shit wouldn't be messaging this way. But it's lives2lives.org, and the 2 is the number 2.
Of course it is.
Data
Why
claims
not?
aside, I actually, I like the sentiment in the shirts and hoodies like that.
It is cute.
I like it.
I don't like the misuse of data though.
No,
No,
I'm a
that I
big
don't.
math
Mhm.
person.
That
I
I'm not
hate
sure.
that.
I got no problem with somebody wearing a shirt that has like something positive. I think that's cool. I mean, I'm a cantankerous fuck, so like if I see it, it makes no difference in my life, but that doesn't mean it doesn't help other people. But to claim those numbers, like they didn't have to include that. It could have just been a cool t-shirt.
Yeah.
We're all about suicide prevention. We think this helps.
I
It's
don't
only
even
15
like.
bucks and people like it. Great.
I'm such a math and a data-driven person. Okay, I've been kept up many a night by trying to do the math about McDonald's and their campaign, right? Billions and billions served. Like, okay, that can't also be all fresh beef because there aren't that many cows in the world at any one given time.
Right. We
Well,
digress.
yeah, but
They'd
I
be
don't think it's
extinct.
1 cow per customer.
Well, no, of
How
course it's
many
not one cow per
burgers are you
customer.
getting per cow?
And there's
But
whole
just like,
McDonald's that don't even serve beef. I know, but I just again, I got to see your data.
and I understand that like people that want to wear a shirt and they feel like they're doing something important, and they might be. And I'm not saying, well, wouldn't it be better to sell a $15 ebook on how to have a good conversation? But they don't want to do that. And I'm not faulting them for it because they're busy. And when you're working 2 jobs and you have 2 kids and your life is hard, those are things that you just don't have time for. But you have time to wear a shirt. I understand that. But
You
from
don't
the
even have
company,
time to think
yeah,
of numbers that make sense.
right,
It's,
but I just have a problem. It's just weird to me that we've become so, it seems to me from this particular feed on that page and whatever the algorithm is feeding me, between the numbers that people pose and some of the messaging, it's like it's capitalism. It's not at all. I don't want to language police them. That's the irony, because I'm kind of doing that, right? But I'm like, wow. So we've devolved so much that we just throw out random fucking numbers. And you're talking about people killing them. It's like weird. Like, how does that become? It's weird. I don't want to. I don't. I said earlier, like I'm not about word or language policing, but maybe I am. I don't know.
no, that's fucking bizarre for sure. 46% is a wild
46%. Like
how, where, who.
but first of all, there is no data. You can't find data to support that. It doesn't exist.
No,
But even if you could, I promise you, it's really
way lower.
way, like way lower. And how you think you're gonna and
I'm willing.
you're gonna measure loneliness because you think lonely people are gonna open up to you or anyone and share with them that they're lonely? No. That's the crazy thing about the hard part, not the crazy part. That's the insidiousness of being lonely, is that when you're really lonely, you don't talk about your loneliness very much.
Yeah, but they probably just sneak in order to collect data like that. They'd have to sneak a sly question in with like the survey they're giving random people to gather data for like Family Feud. Like, okay, what's 3 things that you'd have at the bottom of your pocketbook? And also, like, how lonely do you feel on a scale of 10% to 75?
Yeah, right. Okay. I mean, I'm sure that these researchers,
It's not a clinical setting, you
they
see.
know way more than I do and they account for these things. But at the end of the day, it's very hard to get honest, legitimate research from a group of human beings that are very disinclined to share openly. Like at its core, I understand you could make blind studies and anonymous studies and do it in all kinds of clever, interesting ways that might be very, very valid. But at the end of the day, you're asking people who in many ways can't talk about these things to be honest about it. And maybe some are. But anyway, this is also another conversation for another live. But yeah, anyway, I don't know
I'm
why I
gonna-
wanted to share that with you. I was just blown away.
I want to look up these t-shirts and these hoodies.
I feel like that if that like sort of fake advertising is capitalizing on people's pain. I think that's why it's so bothersome.
Yeah.
Is it's taking this sort of sensationalized issue of suicide and like it's sort of it feels shitty because as a suicide attempt survivor, you can't talk about like a real true thing that you're going through that
Mhm.
causes you a lot of grief in your life and maybe like rejection from social circles and like a lifetime of suffering and stuff that we're not able to talk about. And yet this little brand is going to sensationalize the issue of suicide, throw some numbers on it, get some fake bots to do reviews and kind of like capitalize on marginalized people suffering.
Yeah.
That's
That's
why it's
one
so bothersome.
that's one of the reasons why I was hesitant to ever do anything with merch.
I looked this up and it's weird. I'm sorry. I'm looking it up now and I
Yeah,
see.
yeah, yeah. What do you see?
I typed in lives to live, the number 2, like you said.
Yeah.
And what comes up for me is, first of all, the page itself is actually called Live to Live. But the URL is live2lives.org. So, like, that has a little bit of a mystery to it. Live two lives. There's two wolves inside of you. One's horny and the other's retarded. And you have major depressive. I
Oh
don't
shit.
know.
The one you're gonna feed.
Yeah, that makes up what kind of day you're gonna have or whatever. I don't know. But live two lives.
Oh wow.
Live two lives is the URL, and maybe that was a mistake, or maybe the live to live was I don't know.
So
Maybe,
anybody can make anyone can make a website
but
and
they
start a merch
also
store.
they also sell Protect Our Oceans merch, which is a weird crossover.
Interesting. Well, they're an apparel company,
And
which
it's
says a lot.
affordable. Everything's marked down. That $15 price. These are not 15. They're starting out $85. They're marked down. The dear person behind me. The world is a better place. Yeah, that hoodie does have a drawstring.
Brittany,
Absolutely.
markdown is a myth. That no
I
one's
know it's a
marking
myth.
anything down. They're just
Of
it's
course it
sell.
is. But it says it's marked down right now from $85 to $25.
Well, that's a lie too, because it said 15 on my fucking feed.
You can save 70% and also 46% of lives. And 25% if you can take 25% off of your lonely feelings right now if you just order.
Tell me that wait. You said that. That's not on the website.
No, of course that's not on the
Okay,
website.
because I was like, wow.
These are numbers
Well,
though that I'm reading here. It's
I was when I was thinking about like suicide noted live tour or like whatever I was going to call it, I was talking to Ambient about this because she's been helping me. I was like, are people going to maybe read that as suicide noted live tour? As in like my whole and so I was like, oh wow, someone could read it that way. So I think we're going to change it to suicide noted national tour. I don't have a problem with them misreading it. It's just it's not the main point of it. And so I don't want any, I don't know, maybe I'm too, I don't know. There's
maybe
another
just
point I
start
want.
smaller, call it the Appalachian tour, get everybody like a banjo and everybody just come to this neck of the woods. We'll go from
If I
here
was
down.
just going there, that would be perfect.
Yeah,
Yes.
yeah. We'll travel. We'll go from here down the trail, the Appalachian Trail. We'll go down like Florida way, and just get a good corner of the U.S. out. Get our name out
Dude,
there.
you have no idea how many places I'm planning and trying to coordinate. It's way too late to make major changes. You have no idea. And I have no idea what's going to ultimately come of it, but I'm going to just try my best and not die before I'm done. That's really how I feel.
I
And
think
I'm
that's
glad I'm
what
doing it. It's just like, it's just, somebody wrote in, presumably on YouTube at 10:57, 5 minutes ago. I actually think I can share this with you all. Yeah, show on screen. Let's see. Can you see that?
Nope.
Love. You
No,
can't see what I'm about to. Love this discussion. Oh, it only stays on for 5 minutes. It's going to go away. Then we're going to do it again. All right, y'all, if you're still watching this, it only allows me to do this for 20 seconds. I'm going to read this real fast. I don't know if you can see it, but I can see it. Love this discussion. I feel like that shirt minimizes some suicidal people's experience. The stranger passing by wearing a shirt may distract briefly, but aside from that, not much. Thank you for sharing that. They've got an interesting YouTube name. I don't know if you're still watching. You know who you are. Appreciate that. And thanks for watching. Yeah. So I think we have some different takes on this, which is great. I appreciate that. I like different thoughts or points of view. There was something else I really wanted to add before we leave, but I'm forgetting it, which makes me think it wasn't that important. It was just me adding to the blab, as I say. Do you all have any other thoughts on unalived or commit, or perhaps anything else that came up tonight that you want to add before we get back to our lives? Lives, living lives, lives
Living
lives,
life.
living life.
Viva la vida.
I've been
Not unaliving ourselves, just to be very
I've
clear.
been inspired by this website. I'm gonna go live 2 lives.
You already are, I think.
Yeah. I'm like Sybil. I've got like 5 going on.
Are we minimizing it to just 2? Wait, can't we do some?
Tune in
If
next
two's
week
good,
for a new
10's better.
personality.
There are people out there, I bet, what maybe watching that have like DID and are like, that's not funny. So I should be careful about that.
Yeah, that's
I don't want to offend, but not my goal.
no,
I always
no
wished I was
judgment.
I always wished I was a funny person and I could do a whole shtick about suicide, because there is really like some hilarious things about this
I would love for you to do
experience.
that.
I
I
wish I
wish I
were
was
a
a funny
serious person.
Okay, I'll give you my ideas, Brittany, because you have good delivery. Like one of the things that I thought was so hilarious that happened to me was I was on a like a call, what do you call it, like a suicide helpline or whatever, and I got
Crisis.
put on a crisis line, yeah, and I got put on hold for a really long time. And to me, it broke the spell for me in that moment, because I was like really in bad shape and I thought I just really need to talk to somebody right now and I don't know who to talk to. And I call and I get put on hold, and the most horrible music playing over, the same music playing over and over and over and over. And I was like, okay, this is actually hilarious. And
Yeah,
I wish I was
that's
a
how
funny
they
person.
that's how they get you, man. That's
Yeah,
them trying to
they make you wait in line to death.
or with the music and all, they're trying to like convince you to decide like now's the time for the asylum.
You know,
Totally.
there is I don't remember the name of the podcast. I listen to it somewhat regularly, and somewhat recently, they had an episode dedicated to just these 2 people, I believe, who actually studied the kind of music and how it affects people when they're waiting, and even
I
maybe
have listened
also
to
like
that.
the
I know what
length.
you're talking about.
Maybe
do
even
too.
like the length of time, and especially though I think they really focus on like the kind of music.
Yes.
And I don't know what they wanted. Like they weren't doing it, I don't think, as like a journalistic piece. They were really trying to make it so people were more likely to stay online and what kind of music they should play. And I don't remember what they ended up coming up with. It was just like, well, why don't you it's too bad you don't have the funding, so there's not an extended wait. How about that? Like, because the music is so short.
The
No one gives a
correct answer, no matter what hold me where we're applying this music, whether it's a hold line or an elevator or wherever you wait for things, is "Feel So Good" by Chuck Mangione.
Okay.
So jot that down.
By Chuck Mangione. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I just say like so, but yeah, I'm unrealistic, but it's because people
I've been
say,
put
well,
on hold too.
Sean, like what do you expect? They're volunteers. I'm like, yeah. What does that say? What does that say? That the only people like you won't pay people to be there for people who might be suicidal or need someone to talk to. What does that say about a culture or a society that you're focusing on the right kind of music? Which cool, if it can help, it's great. And I'm sure people are studying ways in which there can be more operators or more whatever they're called. I just haven't heard that. That would be a more interesting thing to study for me. Like, well, how about you double it? Just like in the hospital, it's like you have all these ER beds because there's not enough beds. It's like, sorry to sound like a privileged asshole, but make more fucking beds.
Yeah, I'm thinking surely there are people, there's some organization that pays some operators.
I'm sure there are. I'm sure
I
there are.
don't know if they're clinicians or not, but I think that these people have some training. I want to say again, I'm just speaking so much to reveal how much I've spent inside watching TV in my lifetime. But the Golden Girls, Rose Nyland, that was her job for a little
Right.
while. I
I
think
don't.
she got paid for it.
I don't know. I don't know how that works in terms of paid or volunteer. I think most of the training is in house. Like you don't
Yeah.
necessarily need a degree or certificate. They just want to find the right kind of person who's trainable and has a certain sensibility or a certain skill set, and then train them, and that's great.
I think oftentimes it's like psychology students or
Yeah, maybe.
people that are in the early stages of some university
Social work.
training for social work, that kind of thing, and they do volunteer and they just get like a little, a few hours of training too,
No
but they're
idea.
already kind of in that field.
Yeah, I mean,
But
if I made an organization like that, the only people I would hire would, well, not the only, but I would really favor like suicide attempt survivors as a starting point.
right, like wouldn't that make so much sense?
And I'm
And it
sure
would
some of them
give
are. Yeah.
it would give people so much purpose too. I've actually thought about doing it, but I just have been so busy that, and I think it takes a lot of bandwidth to
Yeah.
do something like that. But I have thought about it for sure. I think I would get really frustrated by the bureaucracy though, and like the
For
just
sure.
exactly what we've been talking about, like the policing of language. You're not allowed to say this, you're not allowed to say that, you're only allowed to be on the call for 10 minutes and da 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 da.
Right.
So
Or
many
like,
restrictions.
if you ask the imminent risk questions and they say certain things, it's probably going to happen. And that. So it's tricky
Yep.
because your gut might say, well, I don't want to ask those questions because I have firsthand experience, but you're required to.
Mhm.
And also it should be said that as far as I understand it, this is also another live, by the way, for another day, but there are warm lines that are much safer that aren't required to ask the imminent risk questions or may not necessarily like call out to a police officer or officers, but they don't get funded.
Right.
So they'll be like, well, we're only available from these hours or not every day because they just don't have the funding. If you want funding, and I think I can only speak for sure about the United States, you better play the game. For better or worse. Because if you don't get money. I mean, 988 was just, if you like it or not, I don't know what's happening right now, but the most recent thing I read about it was like they got massive budget cuts, grants, or whatever it was, whatever monies they get, some of it is being taken away.
When
And
you
especially
said
there's a Trevor, I think is a warm line,
Trevor
but
Project,
I think they're a warm line. So they're not getting certain monies that they could get if they went in the other direction. But there was one organization, I don't remember who it is, that specifically services LGBTQ
I got slashed, right?
suicide, and
that's the Trevor Project.
yeah,
Didn't that
well,
get
I thought it was
slashed?
another one, but yeah, they got slashed.
When you said call 988 earlier, I almost interjected then to ask, like, is 988 still operational? Because
Yeah,
I could have sworn that it wasn't now.
no, it's definitely up. We can check right
That's
now.
good. I
I
I mean,
told you all this. We're digressing here, so if you're listening on live, it's okay. Leave. Thank you for being here. But one more thing, I did an experiment with 980. So I was a crisis counselor for 741, which was, it's just text. I think it's more than the U.S. They have several countries, and I got bored or annoyed with the bureaucracy, just like you were talking about, Carrie. So I don't know how long I lasted. Several months. And when 988 became a thing, if I'm not mistaken, and I may be misremembering, I called them and I felt bad about it because I was just doing a bit of a test. And it's shitty of me because I was taking time away from other people that needed it, but I just felt compelled to do this. And I remember asking this poor girl who answered the phone, trying to make conversation. And I said, look, I just want to know. I may have shared this before, so maybe you've all heard this before, but I said, I want to know what happens if I say I'm an imminent risk. If you ask those questions, which I know you're going to ask, what happens if I answer yes to all of them? And she wouldn't answer me. Now, I don't know if she didn't know, but what she did, what she's trained to do, was turn around and say, are you? And I said, that wasn't my question. My question was, if I answer yes, and I thought, what a weird thing to be not open about.
Yeah.
Why not be transparent about it? And she was skillful in trying to switch it to not answering my question. Again, I don't know if she's not allowed to. I don't know if she just didn't know the answer. And they're trained. I've done the work. You're trained to get back to them, right? So it's like, well, tell me how you're feeling. And I kept saying, and it didn't last that long. I kept saying, the way I'm feeling right now is I want to know what happens if. That's actually how I'm feeling. The fact that I might be or might not be suicidal for now is actually not as relevant to me, but it was to her. I understand that. And the reality, I wasn't. So I feel like shit about doing it, but I really was just curious to see how that, and maybe if I had somebody else who answered the phone, it would have been a different conversation. But I thought that was telling. Like, huh.
It's
Why?
very telling about how one-dimensional the system is and how, everybody views suicide through this tiny little peephole rather than seeing it as this nuanced human issue.
Yeah.
And the peephole is only about like suicide prevention, through this really rigid and unproven set of like the medicalization of it.
Yeah. Yeah. It's an interesting case. Yeah.
I have that's because, like you say, what will happen if I do feel that way? It's well, what will happen if I talk about when I did feel that way? I have been personally cautioned against participating with this group right now.
Mm.
Even I've got a couple of different attorneys, and one of my attorneys right now, with my legal team on the family court side of things, has told me to be very, very careful about what I make public. But right, like about what specifically I talk about, because it literally exactly like we were saying earlier, can come off as like there's still some existent danger. Do we need to protect me from myself, or it's the children from witnessing what I might do to myself?
Or you might be homicidal too. Magically, somehow there's a connection there someone made.
Yeah.
To protect you from harming others. That's the real. We have to make sure you don't hurt other people. It's like,
right. I
you
mean,
do? Really?
even the psychological harm that will occur to others by knowing me is great.
And we
And
need to lock
why?
you. And if we're not 100% sure, we'll take the right thing to do is just to lock you up.
Yeah, lock me up and don't let me out until I'm ready to pop a hoodie on with a positive message.
No, but what most people will do is you'll lie and say to get out and say you're good.
Yeah.
And then
and then think about it and stew on it.
And then depending on what kind of insurance you have, you get a big bill. Let me tell you something right now. When you give somebody a really big bill who's struggling, I promise you it's making it worse.
Yeah.
If you need to be told that, you're in the wrong fucking job. You should quit because you're harming people.
An ambulance bill is insane.
It's like, I don't want to sound like these things don't have a cost and someone's got to pay for them. But I was astounded when I got out of the hospital. I was there. I've been in 2 hospital stays. Definitely the wrong place in both situations.
I hate to do it. I'm sorry. My son has woken back up and I got to pop off. Good night, guys.
But I'll just finish up by saying, like, I was just amazed by the bill. Like, it was big. And I was like, there's no way. And if I didn't have my sister, I stepped in and was like, we'll figure out how to do the paperwork so that you don't have to pay. There's a way to do the charity stuff, but like it was kind of complicated. I'm like, I'm not in a position right now to navigate that.
No.
And I was like,
Huge amounts
man,
of
this
it.
seems like kind of weird. Anyway.
Wow. I do feel the more I learn about your guys' system, I do feel very lucky to live in Canada.
Wow.
I've never had a hospital bill.
Well, I've never paid a hospital bill.
Interesting.
Why? Because I don't fucking want to, because I think it's a racket. But some people look at me as a piece of shit for that. I have a different
So
take.
then do you just have debt? Like is there like, does that affect your credit rating or?
Oh, I have no credit rating. It's garbage, but I've accepted that long ago and I have no plans on buying anything, so it doesn't matter, which is kind of liberating. The only debt that I'm not going to get into it, but as far as I understand, the only debt that can be collected from you in the United States is if you owe the federal government money, and they can actually go in and take money from your account, which they do. But there's usually like a long time of like, they'll warn you, they'll send you letters, they'll work with you. There's a payment plan. Yeah. If you owe doctors or hospitals money, and I'm not encouraging this, but if you don't pay, yeah, it fucks your credit up. But not everyone cares about that, or it's the lesser of two evils. And so maybe if I was 28 and getting married, I'd think about it differently, but I'm not.
Mm-hmm.
So I digress. This has been cool, interesting. We ended up, as we often do, going in different directions, but I love that. I talked more than I wanted to. So Henri or Carrie, do you want to share anything else before we leave?
Nothing for me. I was just going to leave the space for Henri. No, great chatting with you. It's been a good,
thank you.
Good discussion.
We'll decide on another topic this week and we'll do it again soon. Plenty of things to talk about, I think.
Yeah. We never seem to run out of.
No shortage of topics.
Yeah.
All right. I'm going to go. Henri, I think you may be here. I want to make sure I acknowledge. Okay. You good?
Am I good?
Yeah.
I don't have anything to add at the end here.
Okay, cool. Well, thanks for joining. I appreciate it. Thanks for chatting and being open and honest as always. And yeah, we'll connect soon. Cool.
Yeah.
All right. Enjoy your evenings. I can stay on for a little bit if you want to chat. I'm just going to stop the lab now. If you're out there and watching, thanks. And remember, every Monday and for now Thursdays, new episodes. Suicide Noted. It's a good podcast. Have a listen. Ciao.